Finding an activity to do with your child that challenges and pushes you both to be better, that builds character, and is something you can learn together is a fantastic thing.
At Okamikai Martial Arts and Fitness, we thrive on positive feedback from our students, so you can just imagine how happy we were to hear from Jessica and her daughters as they gave their thoughts about our classes.
Classes are always fun, and I always learn something new.
Fun and learning, all while getting out and getting active. That's one of our goals, and according to these amazing ladies, we're doing our job and doing it well.
I see the excitement and the joy that they have to go to class to learn and improve.
Contact us today to find out what everyone is talking about. Our family can't wait to meet your family.
Okamikai is my favorite place to be.
Okamikai Martial Arts and Fitness. Check us out at okamikai.com.
Everything is my favorite thing to do in class.
Welcome to the Okamikai Chronicles, a podcast devoted to not only the students at Okamikai Martial Arts and Fitness, but also to the fans of our school and maybe even other instructors who are curious about what's happening in our small area of the martial arts industry. I'm Scott Campsall, and I'm the chief instructor at Okamikai, which is located in Uxbridge, Ontario, Canada. In this episode, I let you in on a little secret. We're not supposed to have favorite students, but we have favorite students. How do you become a favorite, though? Do you have to be more talented than others? Do you have to suck up to the teacher? Well, before we get into this topic, let me warn you by saying that being a favorite student is a double-edged sword. Sure, you might be loved by your teacher, but you're also going to be expected to go further than the student who is not a favorite. Your work ethic could get you to being in the position of being a favorite, but do you have what it takes to keep you there? Let's find out. I'm just going to start right now by saying I'm not going to mention any names. If you are checking into this podcast and you are thinking that perhaps I'm going to mention who a favorite student would be, then no, I'm not going to. This is not going to be an opportunity to inflate your ego. No, the idea of this is just because I think, although I started with that, we're going to let you in on a little secret that, we're not supposed to have favorites, but we do have favorites. We have favorites, but I don't think it is a big secret. I think anyone who has done any kind of teaching or coaching, they all have an understanding that there are people that are going to step out and they're going to make their mark. And with us having been running for 25 years, if you think that there isn't going to be somebody out of all of the students that have come and gone, or maybe even some of the students that are still with us, if you think that there aren't going to be those that I'm going to remember fondly, then I think you'd be living in a fantasy world, and I think everybody can admit that. So I'm just going to say that I have sort of come up with three major points that I think sort of can allude to why someone would become a favorite student, and maybe why some people could not become a favorite student. But I think the number one thing that makes somebody a favorite is that they inspire us as teachers. They work hard and they motivate us to become better. Maybe it's that they, even though we ask them to show up for 2 to 3 times a week, they show up more than that. And not only do they show up, but they also put in the effort while they're in class. So their stances are just that extra little bit lower. They're working on trying to make their punches that little bit harder or their kicks a little bit higher. And if they're into jiu-jitsu, they're constantly tweaking their game and they're not just goofing off in class. They're working really hard. When you watch a student work really hard, and it doesn't matter whether it's a child or an adult, that inspires us to be better. When we went through COVID, the week before we got shut down, we were told we were changing a child's life. And I've said this to some people before. The following week, when we were told to shut down, we were basically told not only to shut down, but we were told that we were non-essential. And so there was something that I had dedicated my life to, quite literally, both in an activity, but also as something that would create an income for me, in the sense that we owned a school and we were running every day. And as much as I joke and say that I'm just working in my pajamas all day, it's more than that, obviously. So when you have a student that actually comes in and wants to be better, and they're getting the same fulfillment out of the activity that I got out of it when I started. And quite honestly, I got really bitter when we got shut down because I believed that we were being told that this was nothing. It was useless. It didn't mean anything. But then when you watch a child's confidence improve, or an adult start to lose weight and they start to feel healthier and they start changing their lives. So even though we talk about how we try to teach people to learn how to defend themselves, in the end, it may not be an attacker on the street. It could be just overall life. One of the things that I found over the years that people will say that they did that I taught them is they do a break fall. They slip on a patch of ice, or they slip on some mud. Or I had a student that once fell off a 10-foot step ladder and he said, it was awesome. I did this break fall and I didn't get any bruises or anything. And so I always said that was literally self-defense. Maybe you were defending yourself against yourself in the sense that you fell, but the fact that you walked away without any injuries and you were able to go and talk about it afterwards and you didn't have to go to a hospital visit or anything, and it's just because we taught you how to fall, that's something where I thought, okay, that's another form of self-defense. But there's also another form of self-defense in the sense that if you have, as an adult, pushed yourself to become healthier, and that's sort of what happened to me is I started doing martial arts, and then I started realizing I got to work out more and I have to watch what I'm eating because I want to be able to do this activity and I want to be good at it. There are lots of friends of mine that are teachers that are very overweight, and I didn't want to be one of those teachers. I wanted to be someone that if they came to our school and said that they want to sign up for martial arts classes, that they would look at me and they would say, yeah, he's living it. He's not somebody who's basically having to lean against a chair or a door frame just to have a conversation. No, one of the reasons why I work out the way I do and I train the way I do is because I want my students to be proud of me, yes, but I also want new students to know that that's what is involved. It's not just go and do an hour class and then go and gorge out on ice cream and candy and drink a lot of booze and hope there will be a balance that'll keep you healthier. And so when an adult is trying to get healthier and they're using our teachings or our classes to do that or to help do that, and our classes motivate them, that motivates us. When a child stands stronger, is more empowered, has more self-esteem, more confidence, or they have more self-discipline, or the parents come to us and they say, oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe how much my child has changed and I love how the benefits of martial arts are helping them. That, even though we're doing that in the sense that we're presenting the martial arts to them and they are taking our teachings and using it to better their lives, that works to inspire us to do better programs, to do more classes, better classes, and work harder. And so if there's this reciprocal inspiration between the student and the teacher, then somebody who can inspire me, for example, that's going to be somebody who will go higher up on the favorite list. And that actually will end up sort of melding into number 2, which would be someone with a great personality. So number 1, someone who inspires us. Number 2, someone with a great personality. Somebody who's got a great sense of humor, somebody who can laugh at themselves when they make mistakes, because even when I'm doing my training, I'm not perfect. In particular, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I will never say I am the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter. And it's something that's eluding me, and it actually makes me want to go more often to class and try to figure out why I'm so bad at it. And to this day, I have never done a perfect kata. I've come close, but as far as what a tournament official will tell me, but I've never gotten to a point where I've walked away and went, oh, that was perfect. I've never done a perfect grading. And although I may have scored high marks in some areas, I still have seen photos from my gradings where I went, oh, I didn't turn my foot right, or oh, I didn't have my hand in the right spot. I don't believe I ever got a belt handed to me, but I do believe that there's always room for improvement, and martial arts just shows that. There's no such thing as perfect in martial arts. There's always a way to get better. And so when I work with somebody who also realizes that, and they can enjoy the journey, and they can laugh at themselves a little bit, or they just come in with a high energy that they're going to have a good class, that kind of person goes high up on the favorite list. And the last point would be someone who gets it. And when I say someone who gets it, it's someone who, when I'm talking right now and I'm doing this episode of this podcast, they don't turn around and go, oh, well, what about the person who only shows up twice a week and just sort of phones it in when they come to class? They totally get it. They get, no, you got to come in, you got to work hard, and you got to be willing to put in the extra effort. Of course, that would make somebody a favorite. It also goes past that. It goes that you would want more out of your training, especially your martial arts training, than the punching and kicking. And I say punching and kicking, but obviously even with Aikido and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it goes beyond the chokes and the arm bars and the wrist locks. that they realize why they bow when they walk in the dojo, that it's a different thing. They get os. They understand what os means when you bow and you say it emphatically, and you say os, and o being big and su being push, and it's a push for yourself. And it's a sign of respect to anyone who gets an os when you do a bow. They get what it means to come to attention. They get what it means to have a clean dogi. They get why the discipline is there. They get what the cultural influences. They understand that what we are teaching is more than just self-defense. We are teaching lifestyle changes. And so when someone gets a black belt in a martial art, it's not just a piece of fabric that goes around their waist. It's that they have altered their life in some way. And that's sort of where the black belt actually came from, is that you'd have somebody who started with a white belt and then gradually, there's a theory that the belt would get dirtier and dirtier and then all of a sudden to become a black belt. But I've never totally bought into that theory. What I can say is that when someone was awarded a black belt, it was the sign of a life change. It was the sign of going through a trial and coming out of it on the other side. And when I say life change, and I compare it to the fact that you've gone through a trial, it's that you are forever changed. And so that's the theory behind why somebody who has a color belt in a martial art, or I should say why somebody has a color belt in karate or aikido. For our school, we say that you can have that color belt for 3 years. So in other words, you could walk away from the training, and if you can come back within 3 years, we'll keep you at the same belt you have now. I don't recommend that you do it. I'm just saying that we will recognize that you still have that same belt. But then if you let those 3 years lapse, then you go right back to white belt again. And the theory is that Q belts are learning how to do karate so that they can get better at karate. So if you've ever noticed our handbooks that have all our curriculum in them, they count backwards. So if you're going from white to yellow belt, it says 11th to 10th Q. And yellow to yellow advanced says 10th to 9th Q. You're counting backwards. So Q belt ranks are the countdown to become a student. And then once you're a black belt, then you are a student of martial arts. So then you become first dan, second dan, or first degree, second degree black belt. You start going up. So I guess technically, if you've ever watched Kung Fu Panda and they say, we don't have a level 0, technically he's right. We don't have a level 0. We've got 11 levels below 0. There isn't an official 0 because Brown Advanced would be first Q. And then right from first Q, you jump to first dan. So I guess that middle stage is the level 0, but nobody ever talks about it. So now you're a black belt. Are you a favorite now because you're a black belt? Well, no. Even though you inspired us and we taught you and you worked hard and you came to class regularly, maybe even more than the average person, maybe you've got a great personality, maybe you're someone who gets it. Are you still a favorite? Does that automatically put you in the favorite list? No. The 3 points that I gave, they just help you become a favorite. We have had our fair share of black belts that have gone through our school that no, they will not go on my list of favorite students. If you're looking for why a black belt would become a favorite, it would be because they kept on coming and they kept on training and they kept on inspiring and they kept on showing their great personality and they kept on showing that they still get it. And we have had our fair share of black belts that have come in, got their belt, and then walked away. They had that belt dangling in front of them, and it was sort of like the peak of their Mount Everest. And once they got that dangling carrot, they thought, okay, that's it. And if you are on your way to becoming a black belt, let me warn you about something that my first teacher, Hunji Walker, used to tell me about. There's a thing called the black belt blues. And basically what the black belt blues are, as far as what he used to equate it to, was that once you've accomplished your goal, what do you do now? And all I can say is let's go back to what I was saying about the Q ranks compared to the Dan ranks. Where do you go now? You start going up the mountain. Because right now we've taught you how to do the mountain climbing, and now you are a first degree black belt. Now it's time to start learning karate. And I think just maybe 2-3 years ago, I started really understanding the orange advanced kata that we teach, which is called Hien Godan. I think probably in the last year and a half, I've just really started getting MP, which is the brown belt kata that we have in our curriculum. I think just this morning, I was watching a video from a colleague of mine who was talking about Agyuke, or a high block, which is the very first, or a rising block, I should say, which is the very first block we show you when you're doing your intro. And he touched on stuff that I was paying attention to, and I just thought, that's the way I'm going to start doing my rising block now. It wasn't a huge change. It was just some subtle changes, and it was a different way of thinking about it. And so here I am now, 6th degree black belt in karate, and I think I'm just starting to scratch the surface on how to do a good rising block. And yet, even then, that's just the principle. I haven't even practiced it yet. I just know he talked about the principles. And so I'm going to put some effort in it when next time I'm training. I did a comp class in BJJ, and I just, even there, I'm looking at a different way that I might want to use to start passing someone's guard when I get the opportunity. There's always a constant evolution in martial arts training if you really get it, if you really understand. And so the black belts who become our favorites are the ones that just still can't get enough. And so I guess in the long run, even though I had those 3 points, that someone who inspires is someone with a great personality, somebody who gets it, when it comes right down to it, the person that becomes the favorite is the person that falls in love with the same thing that we fell in love with when we started. And understands the passion that's involved, and they keep on coming to class. And so we want to do better because we're in love with the same thing. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's all down to forget about all the points. It's just 1 point. It's someone who has a passion for the same thing that we fell in love with. And therefore there's something that's mutual about that. And we can enjoy that thing together. And I hope that in the end, when the student looks back at their past teachers, that when they have to talk about who their favorites are, that maybe I might hit the top 10 of the list. Because I know that if we can have favorite students, you can have favorite teachers too. This has been a Campsall Broadcasting production. Are you wondering if you're a favorite? Well, if you're a student listening to this, you're close to being one for sure.